Welcome, dear friend. Thank you for arriving here again, in this quiet moment we now share. Tonight, we walk together through teachings that have flowed gently through human hearts for thousands of years. Wisdom passed not through force, but through stillness. Not through noise, but through silence. You may be listening from far away, perhaps late into the night, or early before dawn. Wherever you are, and whatever time it is for you, know that this space is open and safe. This evening, I will offer you a small collection of Zen stories. They may seem simple at first, like calm water reflecting the moon. Yet beneath that surface, they carry depths capable of softening restlessness, loosening the grip of desire, and easing the quiet tensions the mind has been holding. These are not stories meant to entertain. They are gentle reminders left behind by awakened minds, teachers who discovered something easy to forget in a busy world. Peace does not come from rearranging life. It comes from changing how we meet it. There is an old Zen saying, "When the mind becomes still, the world rests with it." As you listen, you may begin to feel the edges of worry slowly dissolve. Thoughts that once spoke loudly may grow tired and fade into the background. A natural calm may rise, not forced, not controlled, but effortless, like sleep arriving when it is ready. These teachings have traveled across centuries in quiet temples, through candlelit halls, and in the sacred pause between one breath and the next. Each story is like a small lantern, illuminating a hidden corner within you. Some may gently untangle old habits of thinking. Others may leave you with questions that continue to echo long after words have faded. All of them invite you back to the simplest place there is, this moment, this breath, this presence. So allow yourself to settle now. Feel the weight of your body being fully supported. Take one slow, conscious breath in, and as you breathe out, release the need to understand anything at all. What you are about to hear is not by chance. These stories have been waiting patiently for you. Let us begin with a tale about the difference between seeing and truly experiencing. High above the drifting clouds, in the mist-covered heights of Mount Ferrano, there stood an ancient temple. Its wooden beams, worn smooth by time, held the quiet echoes of centuries of meditation and prayer. Within those walls lived a monk named Kenjiro, a man who had never seen light, color, or form. Kenjiro was blind from birth, and yet, across the land, his name was spoken with reverence. For despite never having seen a written character or the shape of a mountain, he was known as one of the finest calligraphers of his era. Students traveled for weeks from distant provinces, climbing narrow paths just to sit in silence and watch his brush move across blank rice paper. They would hold their breath as ink flowed beneath his hand, steady, alive, precise. His characters seemed to carry something beyond skill, present, as if they were not written, but revealed. One cool autumn morning, a renowned calligraphy master named Hayashi arrived at the temple. His reputation was well-earned, but so was his doubt. The idea troubled him deeply. How can a man who has never seen, he asked sharply, create what others struggle a lifetime to master? The monks quietly led him to Kenjiro. When the blind monk entered, his movements were unhurried, his presence calm. He prepared his ink slowly, grinding it with patient circles until it reached the perfect depth. He tested his brush gently against his palm. Then, instead of writing, he extended the brush toward Hayashi. "Honored teacher," Kenjiro said softly, bowing, "would you be willing to write the character for Mountain?" Hayashi accepted the brush without hesitation. His strokes were confident, balanced, flawless by every traditional measure. When he finished, the character stood clean and correct upon the page. Kenjiro traced the dried ink with his fingertips, reading its form through touch. A quiet smile appeared. "I can feel your skill," he said kindly. "You write as one who has observed many mountains." Then he paused. "But tell me, have you ever been a mountain?" The question lingered in the air like incense. Hayashi frowned. "What does that mean?" "A man cannot become a mountain." Kenjiro gently took back the brush. "When I write," he replied, "I do not imagine shapes. I enter stillness. I feel the great weight of stone resting in silence. I sense roots pressing deep into the earth, and peaks rising into endless sky. I do not look at the mountain, I rest as it." As he spoke, the brush met the paper. Hayashi watched, completely still. The strokes that appeared seemed to emerge from somewhere beneath the page itself. They carried gravity. The character felt rooted, ancient, alive, as if the mountain had quietly revealed its own name. In that moment, Hayashi understood something no technique could teach. True understanding does not come from looking harder. It comes from becoming still enough to experience directly. And as this realization settled, the mountain outside remained unmoving, patient, silent, and at peace. Just like the mind, when it no longer tries to see and simply rests. The brush comes to rest. Kenjiro lowers his hand and speaks softly, as though not wishing to disturb the mountain that has just passed through him. "The character does not belong to me," he says. "It writes itself. I am only a temporary hand." There is an old teaching attributed to the Buddha. 3 things cannot remain hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. What this moment reveals is something quiet, yet profound. True mastery does not arise from collecting more knowledge. It is born when the walls between ourselves and direct experience gently fall away. So often, we confuse knowing about something with truly knowing it. Zen teachings point to a subtle habit of the mind, the habit of division. We separate ourselves into observer and observed, thinker and experience, self and world. This split becomes a thin veil, almost invisible, yet powerful enough to keep us at a distance from life itself. We gather information, we study methods, we refine techniques, and yet something essential remains untouched. You may recognize this in your own life. You can understand love intellectually, its psychology, its chemistry, and still feel lost when your own heart begins to move. You can learn meditation instructions by heart, counting breaths and adjusting posture, while missing the simple miracle of breathing happening on its own. You can analyze leadership, creativity, or purpose, yet never feel the quiet authority that naturally arises from presence and care. Kenjiro embodies what Zen calls beginner's mind, a fresh, unfiltered way of meeting reality. Because he had never seen a mountain, he was not confined by images, memories, or artistic conventions. His blindness became an opening, a doorway beyond analysis. A path straight into essence. Zen Master Dogen once said, "To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self." This forgetting is not loss. It is release. When Kenjiro wrote, there was no separate I trying to perform skillfully. No identity to defend. No result to control. The boundary dissolved, and mountain nature simply expressed itself. This teaching gently turns toward us now. Are you trying to understand your life? Or are you willing to be your life? When you walk, can there be only walking? When you listen, only hearing? When you face a difficulty, can the response arise from presence rather than thought? Master Hayashi represents a familiar path, refining form, perfecting technique, building expertise through effort and repetition. This path has value, but it can quietly become a cage if it keeps us admiring our skill instead of surrendering to the deeper current moving beneath it. True mastery often appears when we loosen our grip on what we think we know. The surgeon whose hands move without thought. The musician who vanishes into sound. The parent who responds not from theory, but from love. Tonight, whatever you are doing, resting, breathing, listening, you might gently experiment. Instead of trying to do it well, allow yourself to become what is happening. Let words write themselves. Let steps walk themselves. Let love love itself. The Buddha once said that when you truly see how complete everything already is, you may find yourself laughing softly at the sky. Not because life is perfect, but because nothing needs to be forced. Perfection is not in technique. It lives in our willingness to disappear into the truth of the moment, letting life move through us naturally, like ink flowing from a brush. And now, as that understanding settles, we drift onward. The next story carries us into a different lesson, one about distraction, irritation, and the surprising doorway to peace. At Shinji Temple, tucked within a grove of ancient cedar trees, morning mist often lingered like visible prayer. The monastery followed a steady rhythm that had remained unchanged for generations. Before dawn, monks rose. They chanted softly. They tended gardens. And twice each day, they gathered in the main hall for seated meditation. The atmosphere was calm, almost tangible. And yet, this tranquility was regularly interrupted by a rather round tabby cat named Tama. She had arrived years earlier as a small kitten, welcomed without hesitation, as compassion extended to all beings. Over time, however, Tama developed a very specific habit. Whenever the monks settled into meditation, robes arranged, bodies still, minds beginning to quiet, Tama appeared. As if sensing the exact moment when silence was forming, she would pad into the hall. Sometimes she wove between the monks, her tail brushing their faces. Sometimes she climbed into a lap, settling her full weight onto legs already tingling with numbness. She knocked over water bowls. She pawed at hanging bells. On certain days, the hall echoed with sudden, unpredictable chimes. The head monk, Eisen, found his patience slowly eroding. Each session became less about peace and more about restraint. His jaw tightened. His breath shortened. Even the sound of Tama's paws approaching stirred irritation. At last, he approached the abbot, an elderly teacher named Soren, whose presence carried the stillness of many decades. "Venerable teacher," Eisen said, bowing deeply, "this cat makes true meditation impossible. We must remove her from the hall." The abbot listened quietly, eyes kind and steady. Then he smiled. "Tomorrow," he said gently, "let us try something different. Do not resist her. Tell the monks to meditate as they would with any other experience, aware, but not reactive." The next morning, as the gong sounded, the instruction was shared. Some monks were doubtful. Others resigned. All sat down. And right on time, Tama entered. She moved as she always had, brushing robes, toppling bowls, testing patience. But something had changed. When the first bowl fell, the monk simply breathed. When she climbed into a lap, the body remained still. When the bell chimed, awareness stayed open. No pushing away. No welcoming. No resistance. Tama paused. She pawed at a robe. Nothing. She knocked another bowl. No response. Confused, she wandered to a corner, turned in a small circle, and lay down. Soon, the only sound was her quiet purring, deepening the silence rather than disturbing it. Afterward, Abbot Soren gathered the monks. "You see," he said softly, "Tama was never the distraction. Your resistance was. She was simply being a cat." The Buddha taught that we are not punished for our anger, but by it. Suffering does not come from noise, people, or conditions. It comes from pushing against what is. True peace is not the absence of disturbance. It is the presence of balance, a mind steady in pleasure or discomfort, praise or blame. Tonight, as you notice the small cats in your own life, the irritations, the interruptions, the unexpected moments, you might gently try the monk's way. Before fixing, before avoiding, notice your reaction. Breathe with it. Allow it. Peace is not somewhere else. It is here, now, quietly waiting. And as you rest in that understanding, there is nothing more to do. Just this breath, this moment, this gentle drifting into sleep. And so, with the sound of Tama's soft purring still echoing in the silence, we continue our gentle journey. Now, let us rest our attention on a story about generosity, not as an idea, but as a living force that appears precisely when a situation seems impossible. This is the story of the merchant and the mountain pass. In a thriving town nestled at the base of the mountains, where the air was filled with voices, footsteps, and the quiet clink of trade, there lived a rice merchant named Ichiro. Ichiro was not the wealthiest trader in the region, but he was the most trusted. His reputation rested on a simple truth. When Ichiro gave his word, he kept it. Storms, delays, hardship, none of it altered his promise. Over many years, this reliability became his livelihood. One morning at the edge of spring, a message reached him from a small village high in the mountain passes. Their winter stores had failed after an unexpected frost. Hunger had arrived early, and help was urgently needed. They asked for rice at once, offering whatever payment they could gather. Ichiro did not hesitate. Before dawn, he loaded his strongest mules with fresh grain and set out, knowing the path well and trusting he could reach the village in time. Yet as he climbed higher into the mountains, news reached him that troubled his heart. Travelers spoke of men blocking the main pass, people driven by hunger and fear, stopping merchants and taking what they could to survive. As Ichiro approached the narrow defile where the road tightened between stone walls, his thoughts grew heavy. Turning back was not an option. The warming air would spoil the rice, and the village would go hungry. Fighting was impossible. He was alone, unarmed, and tired. In that uncertainty, Ichiro did something unexpected. He turned back, not toward safety, but toward wisdom. At the edge of the town, he sought out a Zen teacher named Sengai, known not for lofty words, but for seeing clearly where others could not. After listening quietly, Sengai remained silent for a long time. Then, with a calm smile, he spoke. "Go to the pass tomorrow," he said. "When you meet those men, bow to them, and offer half your rice as a gift." Ichiro felt his breath catch. "Master," he said softly, "if I do that, I will not have enough left. People will still suffer." Sengai simply nodded. Trust what giving reveals. That night, Ichiro slept very little. At dawn, mist wrapped the mountains as he approached the narrow pass. 3 figures stepped into the road, thin, weary, alert. Before any demand could be made, Ichiro dismounted, bowed deeply, and spoke. "Friends," he said, steady despite his fear, "I am carrying rice for a village beyond this pass. Please accept half of it for your families." The men stared in silence. Suspicion flickered, then confusion. Finally, the eldest stepped forward, eyes sharp but tired. "This is no trick?" he asked. "No trick," Ichiro replied. "Only respect." The wind moved gently through the stones. Something softened. As they worked together to unload the grain, the truth emerged. The village beyond the pass, it was theirs. Their children. Their elders. Their home. With no money and no options, they had chosen a path that weighed heavily on their hearts. The road opened. Ichiro continued on, escorted not by threat, but by gratitude. When he reached the village, every promise was fulfilled, and more. The rice arrived. Families were reunited, and dignity returned to those who had nearly lost it. The Buddha taught that generosity brings joy before, during, and after it is given. This story quietly reveals why. When we believe there is not enough, we tighten our grip. We withhold. We protect. And in doing so, we create the very isolation we fear. Scarcity is not always about resources. It is often about trust. Notice how this appears in your own life. When time feels short, attention becomes stingy. When fear arises, openness closes. When love feels uncertain, we guard our hearts. Yet generosity does not mean foolishness. It means listening for a deeper wisdom. Ichiro did not give because he was careless. He gave because he sensed that separation was the true obstacle. The men at the pass were not enemies, only hungry beings. In the same way, the parts of us that grasp, demand, or defend are often responding to unmet needs. When met with awareness instead of resistance, they soften. Zen teaches that when giver and receiver dissolve into one movement, the path opens naturally. Tonight, as you rest here, you may gently reflect. Where have you been holding back? Where might a small offering of kindness, patience, or trust shift everything? You do not need to solve anything now. Just allow the body to rest. Allow the breath to move itself. And let the quiet understanding settle that when the heart opens, the way forward often reveals itself. Nothing to force. Nothing to fear. Only this moment, gently carrying you into sleep. And yet, generosity does not mean abandoning wisdom. True giving is never reckless. It listens. It discerns. It knows when to open the hand and when to protect what is essential. The Buddha taught that compassion walks together with clarity. Still, he also reminded us that our first instinct to guard and withhold can quietly blind us to possibilities that only appear when the heart relaxes. There is a teaching that says, "One candle can light 1,000 others, and its flame will not grow smaller." Happiness works this way. When it is shared, it does not decrease. It deepens. Attention grows when it is offered. Kindness returns multiplied. Trust invites trust. So tonight, as you reflect on the impossible deliveries in your own life, those moments when demands seem to exceed your resources, you may gently ask yourself a different question. Instead of asking, "What am I missing?" you might ask, "What can I offer?" Sometimes the smallest gesture, given with sincerity, opens a doorway that effort and strategy cannot. And as that thought settles, we turn now to another quiet teaching, one about not knowing, and the unexpected wisdom hidden within it. High on a wooded hillside, where ancient pine trees whispered endlessly with the wind, stood Daikoji Monastery. For centuries, its rhythm of study and practice had remained unchanged. Young monks arrived with bright eyes and eager minds, ready to absorb the deep teachings of Zen. They memorized sacred texts. They debated subtle meanings. They measured progress quietly, comparing insight with insight. Among them lived a young monk named Mon. From the very beginning, Mon seemed different. While others advanced swiftly, Mon lagged behind. After years of study, he still stumbled over the simplest teachings. Sutras slipped from his memory. Koans left him silent and confused. His notebooks remained nearly empty, not from laziness, but from genuine uncertainty. At first, the other monks felt compassion. Over time, compassion turned into doubt, then quiet judgment. "How can he still not understand?" they whispered. "He has been here longer than any of us." Some suggested that Mon simply lacked the capacity for this path. Only the teaching master remained patient. There was something in Mon's humility, his steady presence, his willingness to keep showing up without defense, that prevented the master from turning him away. One afternoon, during an advanced teaching on the nature of Buddha mind, the hall was filled with intense concentration. The master spoke of awareness that cannot be grasped, cannot be located, yet is present in every moment. Students leaned forward, pens scratched paper, foreheads furrowed with effort. Then, in the midst of that intensity, Mon slowly raised his hand. The room fell silent. "Master," he said softly, "I must confess, I don't understand what Buddha mind is, no matter how often you explain it." A few students sighed inwardly. "But," Mon continued, "over these years, I have noticed something strange. When I try to find my own mind, this thing everyone speaks of, I cannot find it anywhere. I look and it is never there. Is something wrong with me?" The silence deepened. The master stared at Mon for a long time. Then suddenly he laughed. Not a polite laugh, but a deep, joyful laughter that filled the hall like a bell ringing clear and free. "You wonderful fool," the master exclaimed. "You have been awake all this time, and too simple to notice." While the others were collecting ideas about awakening, Mon had been living directly in awareness itself. He had discovered, without effort, that mind cannot be found as an object, because it is what is looking. The master turned to the students. "What he has realized through not knowing," he said gently, "is what words can only point toward." The hall remained still as understanding slowly settled. While knowledge had been accumulating in their minds, insight had quietly ripened in Mon's simplicity. Zen teaches that in the beginner's mind, possibilities are endless. In the expert's mind, they become few. Sometimes, not knowing is not a failure. It is the doorway. And as you rest with that thought now, there is nothing you need to understand. No concept to grasp. No insight to chase. Just this awareness, already present, holding you gently as you drift toward sleep. And so we begin to see something quietly important. Why do we believe that understanding must come from filling the mind? From collecting ideas, explanations, and conclusions? From the time we are young, we are trained to treat not knowing as a problem, something to fix, something to replace with information. This approach serves us well in many parts of life. Yet when we turn it toward the mystery of our own being, it can become a gentle obstacle. On the spiritual path, this habit appears in subtle ways. You may read many books about meditation, yet never rest fully in presence. You may study happiness deeply, while overlooking the calm already available in this simple moment. You may analyze love endlessly, while missing the warmth that arises when thinking finally loosens. A Zen teacher once said, "The unwise reject what they see. The wise release what they think." Mont's apparent foolishness was, in truth, a rare wisdom. He trusted what he directly experienced rather than pretending to understand what he had not yet lived. When he could not find his mind, he did not cover that honesty with borrowed ideas. He simply spoke what was true. The other students reflect a familiar pattern: measuring progress, comparing insight, chasing something imagined to be missing. This effort quietly assumes that awakening is something to gain, rather than something to recognize. What allowed Mont's realization was the absence of ambition. He was not trying to become anything, not trying to impress, not trying to arrive. His not knowing created space. And in that space, awareness revealed itself naturally. Zen does not dismiss learning. It simply asks us to notice how we learn. Some knowledge brings us closer to life. Other knowledge replaces life with ideas about it. You may notice this gently for yourself. When you watch the sky at dusk, are you seeing light and color, or thinking about sunsets? When you sit beside someone you love, are you with them, or analyzing the relationship? When you sit quietly, are you resting in silence, or thinking about meditation? The Buddha once taught that it is better to travel well than to arrive. Mon was traveling well, without realizing he had already arrived. Tonight, you don't need to understand anything. You can let questions remain open. You can rest in not knowing. You can allow awareness to hold you without effort. And from that gentle openness, we move now into another story, one that reveals how wisdom can arise from the most unexpected authenticity. At a crossroads where mountain paths met from all directions, there stood a modest inn. Travelers had little choice but to stop there, though few did so gladly. The innkeeper, Fujiwara, was famous for his terrible temper. Late arrivals were greeted with shouting. Early risers were scolded for noise. Meals were served with sighs and slammed bowls. Fujiwara seemed offended by the very existence of guests. One stormy autumn night, as wind howled through the passes and rain struck the shutters, a lone monk arrived at the door. He was soaked, cold, and weary. Fujiwara opened the door with a scowl. "Another one," he muttered, letting the monk inside. "Don't track mud everywhere. And don't expect kindness." The monk bowed deeply. "Thank you for shelter," he said sincerely. Throughout the night, Fujiwara's voice echoed through the inn, shouting at the wind, cursing the rain, arguing with the storm itself. The monk lay quietly, listening. In the morning, as the storm cleared, the monk approached the counter. "I must thank you," he said gently. "You are a remarkable teacher." Fujiwara stared. "A teacher?" he snapped. "I'm just angry. I hate storms." I hate losing sleep." "Exactly," the monk replied, smiling. "Last night, you showed me something precious. You shouted at the storm. Yet the storm remained a storm. The wind did not argue back. The rain did not defend itself. Everything simply continued being what it was." He paused. "You showed me that anger is like weather passing through the heart. It does not define what we are. When allowed to be fully itself, it loses its power." Fujiwara stood silent. After the monk left, something shifted. Not because Fujiwara tried to become kinder, but because he stopped fighting himself. And slowly, naturally, the storm within began to quiet. The Buddha taught, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." Emotions are not who we are. They are movements passing through awareness, like clouds through the sky. Tonight, as you rest here, you don't need to fix anything. You don't need to improve yourself. You don't need to become calm. Simply allow whatever is present to be present. Like weather, it will pass. And in that allowing, the body softens, the breath deepens, and sleep arrives on its own. Nothing to do, nothing to know, only rest. When we identify completely with our emotions, another kind of suffering quietly appears. Not only do we feel anger, fear, or sadness, we begin to judge ourselves for feeling them. A second voice arises in the mind. "I shouldn't feel this. This means I'm failing. If I were wiser, I wouldn't react like this." This inner resistance tightens the body, narrows the breath, and often keeps the emotion alive far longer than it would otherwise remain. Notice how this happens in your own experience. An irritation appears, and immediately the mind argues with it. But the struggle is not with the feeling itself. The struggle is with the belief that the feeling should not be here. Fujiwara's story quietly reveals another way. He was not trying to be angry. He was not judging his anger. He was not pretending to be calm. He simply allowed the anger to exist, plainly and openly, without adding shame or resistance. And paradoxically, that complete honesty created space. Space for the emotion to move. Space for change to occur naturally. A Zen teacher once said, "You are complete as you are, and there is still room to grow." This is not a contradiction. True transformation does not begin with rejection. It begins with acceptance. We cannot heal what we refuse to feel. We cannot change what we deny. The monk recognized that the innkeeper's raw authenticity was itself a teaching, one offered without intention. In many spiritual cultures, emotional control is mistaken for awakening. But Zen points somewhere quieter. Freedom does not mean the absence of emotion. It means knowing that emotions arise within awareness, and do not define it. This does not mean acting out every impulse or harming others. Wisdom still guides expression. But our first relationship with difficult emotions is not correction. It is acceptance. Notice how Fujiwara's anger was simply a clear response to reality. He did not like storms. He did not like disrupted sleep. He said so plainly. No spiritual mask. No performance. No bypassing. And from that honesty, something softened. The storm in the story reflects all the conditions in our lives that do not match our preferences. Work pressure, relationship tension, uncertainty about health or money, small daily frustrations. Like weather, these conditions follow their own rhythm, largely independent of our approval. The Buddha taught, hatred is not ended by hatred, but by love. And this love begins by allowing ourselves to feel exactly what we feel, not by forcing emotions we believe we should have. Fujiwara's transformation began the moment he stopped fighting his own anger. Tonight, as you rest here, notice whatever emotional weather is passing through you. Perhaps impatience, or quiet anxiety, or an old sadness drifting near the surface. Instead of fixing it, instead of improving it, simply allow it. Let it be as it is, like a storm passing through the sky. The way, the Buddha said, is not somewhere else. It is here in the heart. And sometimes peace is found not by avoiding discomfort, but by meeting it gently, without resistance. As we accept our inner storms fully, we begin to notice something vast and still, an awareness untouched by any weather. And from this stillness, another story quietly appears, a story about recognition and the wisdom hidden in plain sight. Word once spread through a valley about a holy man of extraordinary insight. People said he could answer any question, dissolve any suffering, and guide lives back into harmony. He lived, they said, alone on a mountain, far from ordinary life. A man in the valley, burdened by an unsolved problem, heard these stories and felt hope awaken. He had tried everything: advice, effort, seeking. Nothing brought peace. So he began the climb. Hour after hour, under the sun, breath heavy, legs aching, water running low, yet his belief carried him upward. At last, he reached a small, weathered house at the mountain's peak. He knocked, filled with expectation. An elderly servant opened the door. Plain clothes, quiet eyes, nothing remarkable. "I have come to see the holy man," the visitor said, already peering past him. The servant smiled and invited him inside. They walked through the house together. Simple rooms, ordinary objects, nothing special. And before the visitor realized it, they reached the back door. The servant opened it, revealing the path back down the mountain. Confusion rose. "Wait," the visitor said. "I came to see the holy man. Where is he?" The old servant smiled gently. "You have already seen him," he said. And then he added softly, "Here is the teaching. See every person you meet as a holy one. If you can truly do this, the problem you carried up this mountain will dissolve." The visitor stood silent. The wisdom he sought had been standing before him all along. Zen teaches that we find what we are prepared to see. We search for truth in special places, in impressive forms, and overlook the sacred moving quietly through ordinary life. The visitor's true obstacle was not his problem, but his expectation. Tonight, you don't need to climb anywhere. Wisdom may already be here, in simplicity, in stillness, in rest. Let the body soften. Let the breath slow. Nothing more to seek. Nothing to miss. Just this moment, gently carrying you into sleep. Each person becomes a teacher when the heart is ready to listen. Zen Master Dogen once said, "To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self." When we truly see others as sacred, something subtle happens. The need to feel special softens. The desire to stand above or apart gently dissolves. The visitor's disappointment on the mountain did not come from lack of wisdom, it came from attachment. Attachment to the idea that wisdom must be rare, exclusive, reserved for a few. Yet the Buddha taught that a single candle can light thousands of others, and its flame is not diminished. Happiness, like wisdom, does not decrease when it is shared. Every person carries the same quiet flame, but it can only be seen when we approach with humility, with the recognition that the one before us may have something to teach. Look gently at your own life. Where might wisdom be passing unnoticed because it arrives in an ordinary form? A familiar voice, a simple gesture, a brief encounter that seems unimportant. What would change if you met each person as if they might be a hidden teacher? Tonight, as you think of the people around you, family, colleagues, strangers whose paths briefly cross yours, can you practice this way of seeing? Can you look beyond roles and appearances and sense the shared depth beneath them? The Buddha observed that the sky makes no distinction between east and west. It is the human mind that divides and labels. Holy and ordinary, teacher and student, wise and simple. These distinctions live mostly in thought. When we learn to see beyond them, wisdom appears everywhere, patiently waiting to be recognized. And now, from this understanding, another Zen story quietly unfolds, a story about why true awakening cannot be carried secondhand. In a busy capital city, filled with merchants and scholars, a respected Zen master named Bankei had completed a period of teaching. He traveled simply, carrying little, moving from place to place wherever sincere students gathered. As he prepared to depart one temple, folding his few belongings into a small bundle, a finely dressed man approached him. The man bowed deeply. "Venerable Master," he said, "I come on behalf of a nobleman who greatly admires your teaching. He longs to meet you, but urgent duties prevent him today. Would you remain one more day, so he may receive your guidance tomorrow?" Bankei paused. Though eager to continue his journey, he sensed sincerity in the request. "Very well," he said quietly. "I will stay." That evening, the master sat in silence, resting in meditation, open to whatever the next day might bring. Morning arrived. Temple bells echoed through clear air. Bankei waited, but instead of the nobleman, the same messenger returned, this time uneasy. "Master," he said, bowing again, "I bring unfortunate news. The Baron has been called away on urgent affairs. However, he asks that I receive your teaching in his place and deliver it to him exactly as you give it." The messenger hesitated, then added, "His question concerns the nature of mind. What is it and how may it be realized?" Bankei listened quietly. After a long pause, he spoke with gentle clarity. The way of Zen is difficult to convey even when teacher and student sit face to face. To transmit it through another, no matter how sincere, is not possible. He said nothing more. He simply sat. The messenger waited, expecting explanation. None came. Eventually he bowed and left. The Buddha once said, "Be a lamp unto yourself." Bankei's silence carried this truth. Awakening is not information. It cannot be packaged, repeated, or delivered. It is transformation. We often approach spiritual understanding as if it were knowledge to collect, something to grasp and possess. But Zen points elsewhere. Awareness cannot be turned into an object, because it is the very seeing itself. Like tasting water, it must be experienced directly. This is why Dogen said to study the self is to forget the self. And forgetting the self does not happen through ideas, but through quiet, honest presence. Tonight, there is nothing to send ahead, nothing to receive later, only this moment, this breath, this awareness, already here. Let it gently carry you into rest. The self that wants to understand Buddhism as an idea is often the very structure that must be gently seen through. This seeing does not happen by collecting more knowledge. It happens through intimate attention to what is already here. The messenger in the earlier story reflects something very human in us. We prefer distance. We want awakening explained to us, summarized, delivered safely, so that we may remain observers rather than participants. But awareness is not something we look at. It is what is looking. It is not something we possess. It is what we are. Because of this, it cannot truly be transmitted, explained, or handed over. It can only be recognized. Bankai's silence after his brief reply was not emptiness. It was instruction. In Zen, silence often speaks more clearly than words. The pause between breaths, the gap between thoughts, the open space in which all sensations appear and fade. These are not concepts to understand. They are realities to notice. Teachers do not give enlightenment. They point. They create conditions where recognition may happen naturally, like clouds parting to reveal a moon that was always there. Tonight, as you rest and listen, notice something very simple. You are aware of these words, aware of the body lying or sitting here, aware of sensations, sounds, perhaps even tiredness. Rather than trying to understand this awareness, can you simply remain with it? As the Buddha said, work out your own freedom with care. No one can walk this path for you. It is taken breath by breath, moment by moment, right where you already are. And now, from this stillness, another Zen story quietly opens. One that reveals the difference between spiritual performance and genuine understanding. In the great monastery of Zhaozhou, where hundreds of monks followed ancient rhythms of practice, each morning began before sunrise. After silent meditation, monks dispersed into daily tasks, gardening, cooking, cleaning, copying texts, each activity part of the way. One morning, the abbot, Master Zhaozhou, walked slowly through the grounds, his presence calm, attentive, penetrating. Behind the meditation hall, he noticed a young monk sitting alone, seemingly absorbed in practice, apart from the community's routine. Zhaozhou stopped and asked gently, "Brother, where have all the virtuous ones gone?" The question sounded simple, almost casual. But the young monk, eager to demonstrate understanding, answered quickly and confidently, "They have all gone to work." His reply carried certainty. Virtue, he assumed, meant productivity. Doing. Accomplishing. Without warning, Zhaozhou reached into his robe and drew out a knife. The monk froze. Then, calmly, the old master extended his own neck and placed the knife into the monk's trembling hands. "My duties as abbot are many," Zhaozhou said softly. "Please cut off my head. It would help greatly." The monk's mind shattered into fear. Unable to move beyond the surface of the request, unable to see past form into meaning, he dropped the knife and ran. Zhaozhou picked it up, returned it to his robe, and continued his walk, untroubled. This story is not about violence. It is about understanding. The monk knew the language of Zen, but when confronted with direct compassion, his knowledge collapsed. He believed virtue lived in activity and spirituality lived apart from danger, paradox, and surrender. But Zen cuts deeper. When Master Zhaozhou offered his neck, he was asking, what work truly matters? What compassion goes beyond roles? What must be surrendered for freedom to appear? Zen Master Linji once said, If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill the Buddha. Not literally, but cut through every fixed idea, every image, every spiritual identity. Anything you cling to, even holiness, becomes an obstacle. The monk ran because his understanding was still safe, still conceptual, still protected. True insight demands vulnerability. It asks us to release even our most cherished ideas about who we are and who we are trying to become. Tonight, you are not asked to run, nor to perform, nor to prove anything, only to rest in the awareness that remains when nothing needs to be held. Let that be enough. If it truly serves awakening, tonight, as moments arise where you might help another carry their weight, pause gently. Notice the subtle difference between giving what you believe is helpful and responding from quiet understanding. True compassion is not always comfortable. Sometimes it asks us to release our fixed ideas about what spiritual behavior should look like. There are moments when kindness does not come wrapped in softness, but in clarity. Moments when compassion cuts through illusion, not to harm, but to free. The Buddha spoke to this deep interconnection when he said that caring for another is never separate from caring for oneself. When the illusion of separation fades, helper and helped are no longer two. The abbot's gesture, offering even his own life, points toward this non-dual understanding. When self and other dissolve, compassion arises naturally, without calculation. And now, from this quiet place, let another Zen story unfold, one that speaks directly to the nature of spiritual truth itself. Long ago in China, there lived an emperor known throughout the land for his devotion to the Buddhist path. Unlike rulers who sought only power and territory, this emperor turned his attention inward. He studied sacred teachings, built temples, supported monasteries, and surrounded himself with learned monks. His palace was filled with scrolls, statues, and symbols of devotion. Years of study had shaped his identity as a righteous and enlightened ruler. One day, news reached the emperor of a Zen master whose understanding went beyond words and doctrine. Without hesitation, the emperor sent for him. He wished to test his own insight, to measure his learning against the wisdom of this master. When the day arrived, the palace hummed with anticipation. The emperor had prepared thoughtful questions, carefully formed to reflect his deep knowledge of Buddhist teaching. Surely such dedication would be recognized. But when the master entered the throne room, he appeared entirely ordinary. His robes were worn from travel, his manner simple, his presence quiet yet awake. Seated upon his golden throne, beneath paintings of enlightened beings, the emperor felt both excitement and unease. He spoke. "Venerable Master," he said, "I have studied the teachings for many years. I have built temples, supported monks, and devoted my life to the sacred path. Tell me, what is the highest truth of Buddhism?" The emperor leaned forward, expecting a profound explanation, perhaps a teaching that would crown his lifelong effort. The master looked at him steadily, as if seeing beyond rank, beyond knowledge, beyond identity. And then he spoke quietly. "Vast emptiness, and not a trace of holiness." The room fell silent. The emperor felt the ground shift beneath his certainty. No scripture, no philosophy, no praise for his devotion. Confused, he asked, "If there is no holiness, then who are you?" The master replied simply, "I do not know." With these words, every title, every concept, every spiritual achievement fell away. The master departed as quietly as he had arrived, leaving the emperor alone with a silence that could not be filled by thought. The Buddha once observed that those who believe they know are the ones most distant from knowing. Zen does not ask us to collect truth. It invites us to release what we cling to. So often, spiritual seeking becomes another form of grasping. We gather teachings like treasures, believing awakening lies in accumulation. But truth cannot be owned. It cannot be explained. It must be lived. The Master's words point to emptiness, not as nothingness, but as openness. A reality where nothing stands alone, where everything arises together, without fixed essence. When holiness disappears, ordinary life reveals its sacred depth. Tonight, as you rest, what would it be like to set down everything you think you know? To rest in not knowing. To allow the mind to soften. In that openness, this moment is complete. Nothing is missing. Now, gently, let us turn to another story, one that reveals the quiet power of belief and how destiny is shaped from within. A Japanese general once faced a battle that seemed impossible to win. His army was greatly outnumbered. The terrain favored the enemy. By all strategic measures, defeat was certain. Yet within him, there remained an unshakable conviction. Not arrogance, but trust. His soldiers, however, could see the odds. Fear moved through the camp like a cold wind. Doubt weakened their hearts before the battle had begun. The general knew something essential. An army that believes it has already lost will surely fall. On the morning of the battle, as they marched forward, he led his troops to a small shrine beside the road. There they prayed quietly. Afterward, the general drew a coin from his pocket and held it high. "We will let heaven decide," he said. "If the coin lands heads, we will win. If tails, we will lose." The coin was tossed. It landed heads. A wave of relief and joy swept through the soldiers. Their fear transformed into confidence. They charged into battle with unified strength and determination. Against all expectations, they won. Later, the general revealed the truth. The coin had two heads. The Buddha taught that the mind shapes reality. What we believe deeply becomes the path we walk. The general understood that belief is not separate from destiny. Victory was born the moment doubt dissolved. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, notice the quiet beliefs you carry, the ones shaping your inner world. And rest, knowing that awareness itself is already free. He understood something essential. Confidence, determination, and inner resolve can outweigh numbers and circumstances when they arise from a genuine place. Yet the deeper teaching is this: the general did not simply deceive his soldiers. He did not impose false hope upon them. Instead, he created the conditions in which their natural courage could surface. That strength was already there. It had always been there. The soldiers did not suddenly become brave. They remembered that they were. Belief did not replace effort. It unlocked it. They still had to step forward. They still had to face danger, fatigue, and fear. But their conviction created the inner ground where skill and courage could express themselves fully. Zen teaches us to walk a middle path between effort and surrender, between intention and acceptance. We cannot command outcomes, but we can shape the quality of attention, energy, and presence we bring into each moment. And often, that quality determines whether we move forward or withdraw before truly beginning. A Zen master once said, "The foolish reject what they see. The wise reject what they think." The general understood this. He saw that his soldiers' thoughts about defeat were more powerful than the battlefield itself. So he worked with the mind rather than against reality. Tonight, as you rest, you may gently reflect on your own life. Where might you be carrying a quiet expectation of failure? Where might fear be deciding your effort before you have fully engaged? And where might you create your own two-headed coin? Not through illusion, but through a steady practice or perspective that returns you again and again to courageous participation. The Buddha taught that the world we experience arises together with the mind that meets it. This is not magical thinking. It is a recognition of the creative power of consciousness itself. When we meet life with clarity, sincerity, and commitment, we often discover capacities we did not know we carried. So tonight, as you consider the challenges before you, can you shape the inner conditions that support your highest possibilities rather than your deepest fears? You may not control destiny, but you influence how it unfolds through you. And when one candle is lit from another, no flame is diminished. Belief shared becomes strength multiplied. Now, gently, let us turn to another story, one about quiet influence and the unseen way a life touches others. At a peaceful monastery overlooking a still mountain lake, a young monk sat alone on the stone steps. The sun was lowering itself toward the water, turning the surface gold. The boy's shoulders were heavy, his breath slow with disappointment. For months, he had struggled. The teachings did not settle easily in him. Meditation slipped away into sleep. Sutras would not remain in his memory. When his teacher approached and sat beside him, the young monk spoke softly. "A boat is coming to take me home," he said. "I have failed here. What can I tell my family? They believed I would return wise, able to guide others." The old teacher did not answer immediately. He gazed across the lake, where a small wooden boat moved slowly through the water. At last he spoke. "Tell them you did your best," he said gently. "That is enough." "But I wanted to be more," the boy replied. "I dreamed of teaching others, of making a difference." "You still can," the teacher said. "How?" the boy asked, confused. "I couldn't master the teachings." The teacher smiled and pointed toward the lake. "Watch." The boat moved forward, and behind it, a widening wake spread across the water. "Do you see the shape?" the teacher asked. The boy squinted. "The boat is you," the teacher said. "The lake is your life, and the wake is the effect you will have on the world." Each ripple touched another. Each wave caught the sunlight and reflected it back toward the sky. By living with sincerity and kindness, the teacher continued, you teach without words. A few will be touched. Some of them will touch others. And the wake continues. The boy watched silently as the golden light danced upon the water. "Would you come home with me?" he asked softly, "and explain this to my father?" Wisdom spreads quietly, not through titles, but through presence. Not through recognition, but through integrity. We believe influence requires authority. Zen reminds us that it requires authenticity. Throughout your day, how many lives are touched by simple kindness? A smile, patience, listening without judgment. These moments leave traces far beyond what we can see. Like the boat on the lake, we may never witness our wake, but it moves outward all the same. Each sincere moment becomes a teaching. Each compassionate act reflects light. Tonight, as you rest, notice the golden wake you are already creating. And now, we continue with a teaching about the difference between knowledge and realization. This is the story of the one-eyed monk and the silent debate. In ancient China, wandering monks traveled from monastery to monastery, testing their understanding. Before receiving shelter for the night, they were asked to engage in a dharma exchange, a meeting of insight rather than argument. One evening, a travel-worn monk arrived at a monastery hidden among bamboo groves. His robes were dusty, his sandals worn thin, but his eyes were bright with seeking. The abbot, occupied with evening duties, asked his attendant to receive the guest. This attendant had lost one eye long ago, yet his inner vision was clear. When the two met, the traveler suggested a silent exchange, no words, only gestures. The attendant agreed. The traveler raised one finger. The attendant raised two. The traveler raised three. The attendant formed a fist and held it still. The traveler froze. Confusion crossed his face. Without another gesture, he bowed and left. Soon after, he sought the abbot, his voice humbled, his certainty shaken. And there, the deeper teaching began to unfold. "Venerable teacher," the traveling monk said with a respectful bow, "your attendant's understanding is far beyond my own. I am not yet ready to remain here. I must continue my journey." The abbot raised his eyebrows slightly, a quiet curiosity passing through his face. "Tell me," he said gently, "what occurred between you?" The traveler spoke with sincerity. "I raised one finger," he explained, "to represent the Buddha, the awakened one who revealed the path. Your monk responded with two fingers, showing the Buddha and the teaching together. So I raised three fingers to honor the three treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha." Then he formed a single fist, revealing that all three are not separate, but one living reality. "Such insight is beyond me. I must seek further guidance before I can stay." The abbot listened in silence, his surprise deepening. Not long after the traveler disappeared into the evening shadows, the attendant rushed in, breathless, his single eye blazing. "Where is that man?" he demanded. "I have been searching everywhere." The abbot turned calmly. "What happened?" he asked. The attendant spoke, his voice tight with emotion. "First he insulted me," he said. "He held up one finger, mocking my missing eye. I chose restraint and lifted two fingers, acknowledging that he was blessed with two eyes. But he continued. He raised three fingers, reminding me that together we have only three eyes. Enough was enough. I clenched my fist, ready to strike. He fled." The abbot stood quietly, absorbing this astonishing contrast. Two people, one moment, two entirely different worlds. The Buddha taught, "We do not see things as they are. We see them as we are." Each monk experienced the same gestures, yet lived in a different reality. The attendant's long-held sensitivity colored every movement as an insult. Traveler's spiritual longing turned anger into imagined wisdom. Both were sincere. Both were mistaken. Neither was lying. They were simply looking through the lenses shaped by their past. Zen calls these forces the winds of the world. Praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, honor and disgrace. When these winds blow strongly within us, they reshape what we see. Tonight, as you rest, you might gently notice how your own experiences shape perception. A distracted tone becomes rejection. A suggestion feels like criticism. A silence becomes a story. Zen practice invites a softer seeing. a willingness not to rush into meaning, a don't-know mind that leaves room for clarity. When we notice emotion rising, we can pause. When interpretation tightens, we can loosen our grip. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." As we understand how inner weather creates outer storms, we begin to see more clearly, with wisdom and with compassion. Now, gently, we turn to another teaching, one that reveals how attachment can quietly transform love into suffering. This is the story of the chrysanthemum garden. In the countryside of ancient Japan, where autumn mist drifted over rolling hills, there lived a wealthy nobleman. Behind his grand estate lay a garden unlike any other. Chrysanthemums bloomed there in endless rows, golden, white, violet, deep red. The baron adored them. He studied them carefully, tended them endlessly, spoke of them with pride. But over time, his love became fixation. The flowers mattered more than family, more than kindness, more than peace. Servants walked in fear. One broken stem could mean harsh punishment. One autumn day, a loyal retainer accidentally brushed a flower, snapping its bloom. The baron's anger erupted. The man was imprisoned. Humiliated and despairing, the retainer resolved to end his life in protest. Word reached Zen Master Sengai. Knowing that obsession had overtaken wisdom, the master acted. On a rainy night, when the flowers were at their peak, Sengai entered the garden with a sickle. Quietly, deliberately, he cut every chrysanthemum down. By morning, the garden was bare. The baron rushed outside in horror, sword in hand. "What are you doing?" he cried. Sengai stood calmly among the fallen stems. "Even beautiful things," he said softly, "become weeds when they are clung to." In that moment, the baron awakened. His love had turned into chains, his care into control. The Buddha taught, attachment is the root of suffering. When we cling, we suffocate what we cherish. True love allows. True care releases. True appreciation does not grasp. Tonight, as you drift toward rest, you may gently ask, where am I holding too tightly? Where can love soften into freedom? And as these questions settle, allow the breath to slow, the body to rest, and the mind to release. Nothing needs to be held. You are already enough. The chrysanthemums remind us that anything lifted too high in the mind can quietly become a source of suffering. They may appear as success, beauty, recognition, spiritual progress, or the carefully shaped image of who we believe we must be. When love turns into clinging, pressure replaces peace. Control replaces care. Not only we suffer, those around us feel it too. Zen teacher Suzuki Roshi once said, "You are perfect just as you are, and you could use a little improvement." This gentle paradox shows the middle way. We may care deeply without tightening our grip. We may grow without condemning ourselves. Sengai's action was extreme, but so was the attachment. Sometimes the medicine must be strong to awaken clarity. Loss, disappointment, and the unavoidable truth of impermanence often arrive as teachers. They ask us quietly, is this love or fear disguised as love? Notice that the baron did not simply adjust his devotion. He let it go completely. Sometimes stepping away allows the heart to return with wisdom. Tonight, you might rest with this question without needing an answer. What in your life do you love so tightly that it brings strain instead of ease? And what would it feel like to hold it more gently, to let it breathe? The Buddha reminded us that what matters most is how deeply we love, how softly we live, and how gracefully we release what is not meant to stay. True love does not imprison, it allows. And now, we continue with a story that reveals the transforming power of fearlessness and unconditional compassion. This is the tale of the thief and the Zen master. One quiet evening, as twilight brushed the sky with violet and gold, a Zen master sat alone in his small home. A single candle flickered nearby. Ancient verses flowed from his lips, steady and unhurried. Each breath was prayer, each word a resting place. Suddenly, the door burst open. A man rushed in, clutching a sword. His clothes were torn, his body tense with fear and desperation. "Money or your life," he shouted, though his voice trembled. The master did not look up. He continued reciting, then paused gently as one might pause to greet a guest. "Please," he said calmly, "do not disturb my practice. If you need money, help yourself. It's in that drawer." And with that he returned to his chanting. The thief stood frozen. No resistance, no fear, no anger, only ease. Confused, he lowered his sword and took the coins. Behind him, the sutra continued, soft as a stream. As the thief turned to leave, the master spoke again. "Please don't take all of it," he said kindly. "I need some for tomorrow." Something shifted. Without knowing why, the thief returned a portion of the money. As he reached the door, the master added gently, "You took my money, but you didn't thank me." The thief's hand began to shake. Never had violence felt so powerless. "Thank you," he whispered, and fled into the night. Later, when the man was captured, the master was asked to testify. "He did not steal from me," the master said. "I gave it freely, and he thanked me." In chains, the thief felt something break open. Not shame, not fear. Something softer, something real. For the first time, he had encountered love without conditions. Years later, he returned, not as a thief, but as a student. And through patient guidance and unwavering compassion, his life transformed. The Buddha taught, hatred is never ended by hatred. It ends only through love. This story shows us that peace is not weakness. Compassion is not surrender. Meeting fear with love creates a doorway where none seemed possible. Tonight, as you rest, you may gently ask, when faced with anger or demand, can I respond from stillness instead of defense? And with that question, allow the body to soften, the breath to deepen, and the mind to drift toward rest. Nothing more is required. Most of us, when faced with tension or threat, immediately tighten. The body braces. The mind prepares its defenses. We either push back or pull away. Take a quiet moment to notice what happens inside during these reactions. Does the breath soften or grow shallow? Does the heart feel lighter or more contracted? Often, resistance multiplies the very struggle we are trying to escape. The Zen master's response came not from impulse, but from clarity. This is what Zen calls skillful action, responding from understanding rather than habit. His calm did not arise from ignorance of danger, but from seeing more deeply into the nature of suffering. He recognized that aggression is rarely born from cruelty, but from fear, desperation, and unmet pain. By refusing to label the other as an enemy, he opened a doorway for transformation. In Zen practice, this is sometimes called the courage of openness. Not weakness, not blindness to harm, but the strength to remain rooted in wisdom when instinct urges reaction. The Buddha taught that 3 things matter most in this life: how we live, how we love, and how gently we let go. In that brief encounter, the Master embodied all 3. He lived in presence. He loved without conditions. And he released attachment even to what seemed most necessary. As you rest tonight, you might gently reflect on the people who challenge you. The difficult voice, the impatient stranger, the sharp words spoken without care. What would it feel like to meet their energy without mirroring it? Not by agreeing, not by yielding your truth, but by staying anchored in your own inner stillness. There is a quiet space between what happens and how we respond. In that space, choice lives. And sometimes, the most powerful response is simply to remain unmoved in our commitment to compassion. One word of peace, the Buddha said, is worth more than 1,000 empty speeches. And now, as the breath grows slower, we turn to another story, one that speaks of desire, contentment, and the subtle trap of always wanting more. This is the journey of the stone cutter. High in the mountains, where paths twist gently through mist, there lived a simple stone cutter. Each morning he carried his tools along familiar trails, his steps steady, his heart unburdened. As he worked, his voice rose in quiet songs, echoing softly across the valleys. By the measures of the world, he was poor. By the measures of the heart, he lacked nothing. His days were full. His nights were peaceful. But one afternoon he was asked to work on the estate of a wealthy noble. As he approached the great house, his breath caught. Tall pillars of marble, gardens shaped with perfect care, rooms filled with comfort and ease. For the first time, a sharp desire pierced his contentment. If only I were rich, he thought. And the stones whispered back. That evening, his humble hut had vanished, replaced by a grand mansion. At first, joy overflowed. Yet soon, from his window, he saw a royal procession. The king passed in shaded comfort, untouched by heat or labor. If only I were a king, he thought. And the wish was answered. But even kings cannot escape the sun. I wish I were the sun, he declared, and power filled the sky. Until clouds gathered, I wish to be a cloud. And so he became rain and storm, until his force met a mountain that would not move. I wish to be a rock, solid, enduring, until he heard the steady sound of chiseling, a man cutting stone. I wish to be human again. And suddenly he was once more a stone cutter walking familiar paths. But now, something had softened. The mountains felt closer, the air sweeter, his song deeper. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. The Buddha taught that contentment is the greatest wealth. The stone cutter did not find peace by becoming something else, but by seeing clearly what had always been enough. Desire promises fulfillment, yet moves the goal endlessly forward. Contentment rests right where we are. Tonight, as the mind reaches outward, you might gently return to the breath, to the body, to the simple miracle of being. The greatest transformation is not becoming more, but recognizing the quiet completeness already present. And from this stillness, we continue onward, toward a story about true help and the heart of real teaching. For now, rest here. This next story speaks of help and healing, and of how wisdom sometimes appears in unexpected forms. It is the meeting between a psychiatrist and a Zen master. At a quiet gathering of scholars and spiritual teachers, a psychiatrist found himself sitting beside a well-known Zen master. The psychiatrist had spent many years studying the mind. He had listened to countless stories, traced the roots of suffering, and offered methods to ease emotional pain. Moved by curiosity, he asked the master a simple question. "I have learned many ways to help people," he said softly. "How do you help them?" The master listened without haste, not only to the words, but to what rested beneath them. After a moment of silence, he replied gently, "I bring them to a place where no more questions arise." The psychiatrist paused. "I don't understand," he said. "Isn't questioning essential to growth?" The master smiled. "Questions," he said, "come from the feeling that something is missing. When that feeling dissolves, questions rest." The Buddha taught, "Find your own light." Yet here lies a quiet paradox. True understanding does not come from endless seeking, but from arriving where nothing needs to be added. So often, we believe helping means providing answers. But sometimes, the deepest healing comes when the one who is asking softens and disappears. Zen points to this gently. Many problems persist only because we keep asking the questions that sustain them. How can I be happier? What is wrong with me? What must I become? Each question carries a silent belief, I am not enough. Yet the mind that asks, how do I find peace, is often the same mind that disturbs the peace already here. The Master's way is not about suppressing curiosity. It is about guiding someone into a direct experience of wholeness, where seeking naturally falls away. Zen teacher Bankei once said, "The unborn mind is already complete." When this is seen, questions about completion no longer arise. Practical questions remain. Simple ones. But the deep ache of seeking grows quiet. The Buddha said, "There is nothing to gain, nothing to lose." True help, then, is not adding more effort, but revealing what has never been absent. Tonight, as your thoughts slow, you might notice how many questions float through the mind. And beneath them, a spacious awareness that asks nothing. Rest there. And now, we continue with another story, one about laughter, seriousness, and the suffering we create by holding ourselves too tightly. This is the tale of the monk who found his teacher in an unexpected way. In a quiet mountain monastery, there lived a young monk known for his devotion. Before dawn, he sat in perfect stillness. He memorized sutras. He studied philosophy with intense focus. His practice was flawless. His expression, severe. One autumn morning, while studying a passage on emptiness, he found himself confused. The words seemed clear, yet their meaning vanished when grasped. Determined, he carried the text to his master. The old teacher sat calmly, sunlight falling softly across the wooden floor. "Master," the monk said, bowing deeply, "I cannot understand this teaching. Please explain." He spoke carefully, earnestly. The master listened. And then, something unexpected happened. The master smiled, then laughed. Quiet laughter turned into open joy. Tears streamed down his face. The monk stood frozen. No explanation. No teaching. Only laughter. And then the master left. For 3 days the monk could not rest. He could not eat. He could not meditate. The laughter echoed inside him. Finally he returned. This time he did not bow. "Master," he said softly, "your laughter has broken me. Please tell me, what did I do wrong?" The master looked at him with great kindness. "Monk," he said gently, "do you know what your problem is?" And as those words settled, the room grew quiet, inviting us to rest and to listen. The master's words landed softly, yet deeply, like a bell echoing through still air. "You are worse than a clown." For a moment, the young monk felt as though the ground beneath him had shifted. His breath caught. His eyes widened, not with anger, but with quiet confusion and pain. "Venerable teacher," he said gently, "how can this be so? I have given my life to the path. I have let go of comfort, of pleasure, of the ordinary world. I study the Buddha's teachings with sincerity. How can I be compared to a mere entertainer?" The master did not scold him. He did not raise his voice. He simply smiled, a warm, open smile, free of judgment. "A clown," the master said softly, "finds joy in making others laugh. When people smile, the clown's heart feels light. His purpose is simple, to bring ease, to bring joy." The master paused, allowing the words to settle like dust in sunlight. "But you," he continued, "when another person laughs, your heart tightens. You feel disturbed, upset, even wounded." The master looked into the monk's eyes with kindness. "Tell me," he asked quietly, "is this not worse than a clown?" In that still moment, something inside the monk loosened. Understanding rose, not suddenly, but gently, like dawn unfolding behind thinning clouds. He saw clearly how his suffering had been born, not from the master's laughter, but from his own attachment to being taken seriously. He had clung tightly to an image, the image of a devoted practitioner, a sincere seeker, a serious monk. And because of that image, he could not receive joy. The laughter had never been ridicule. It was delight, a spontaneous celebration of the Dharma revealing itself through paradox. As this realization softened his heart, the monk began to laugh. At first, it was quiet, almost shy. Then freer, warmer, lighter. He laughed at his own heaviness, at his rigid search for understanding, at the beautiful absurdity of chasing enlightenment with such grim determination. His laughter joined the master's laughter from days before, and in that shared joy, understanding bloomed naturally. As the Buddha once observed, if you light a lamp for another, it also brightens your own path. This teaching rests in a simple truth: our reactions to others reveal the condition of our own minds. Why do we feel unsettled when joy appears in forms we do not expect? Why does laughter disturb us when we hoped for seriousness? Zen Buddhism points to a few quiet patterns. First, there is our attachment to being understood. The monk was not troubled by laughter itself, but by his need for his question to be met with solemn validation. Second, there is our attachment to spiritual identity. When we cling to being seen as sincere, wise, or advanced, we lose the openness that allows true learning to occur. Third, there is our narrow idea of how wisdom should appear. We expect it to arrive dressed in seriousness, spoken slowly, wrapped in tradition. But awakening often slips in through unexpected doors, through laughter, through a child's question, through the sound of wind in bamboo, through an ordinary moment we nearly ignore. How often do we miss teachings because they do not match our expectations? Perhaps a casual comment holds the insight we need. Perhaps an annoying situation is quietly instructing us. Perhaps joy itself is the teacher. Zen master Shunryu Suzuki once said, "In the beginner's mind there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few." The monk's certainty had become a barrier. His seriousness had closed the door that laughter was trying to open. So tonight, as you rest here, consider this gentle question. Are you seeking understanding, or are you seeking to be understood? Are you open to wisdom arriving in any form, or only in the forms that confirm who you think you are? The master's laughter was not diminishing the Dharma. It was celebrating its boundless joy. As the Buddha taught, thousands of candles may be lit from a single flame, yet the flame is not diminished. Happiness is never reduced by being shared. The monk discovered he could join that joy, not resist it. And now, as the night deepens, we continue with another quiet teaching, a cautionary tale about subtle pride. This is the story of the clever monkey. Long ago, in ancient China, the Prince of Wu set out on a pleasure boat toward Monkey Mountain, a place known for its wild beauty and playful creatures. Surrounded by guards and attendants, the prince approached with the ease of one accustomed to obedience. When the monkeys saw the royal party, panic rippled through the forest. They fled upward into the trees, chattering fading into rustling leaves. All except one. One monkey remained, leaping freely, swinging effortlessly from branch to branch. His movements were graceful, confident, almost theatrical. He seemed untouched by fear, as though danger did not exist. The prince watched, irritation rising. This small creature showed no respect. Its confidence felt like mockery. The prince lifted his bow and released an arrow. The monkey caught it midair. Casually, effortlessly, he examined the arrow, then tossed it aside. The prince's face darkened. "Attack," he ordered. Arrows filled the sky. This time, the monkey could not deflect them all. In an instant, his cleverness was undone. He fell silently to the forest floor. Turning to his companion Yen Pui, the prince said, "Do you see?" He trusted his own skill. He displayed his cleverness. Yen Pui carried this lesson deeply. Back in the kingdom, he reflected on his own talents and reputation. Quietly, he became a student of a humble sage. He let go of distinction. He hid his brilliance. He became ordinary. And in that ordinariness, people sensed something vast and unspoken. The Buddha once said, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." This story reminds us how easily the ego borrows wisdom and turns it into pride. Even genuine insight can become a weapon of separation when we cling to it as identity. True depth does not announce itself. It rests quietly, like still water, like breath at rest. As you lie here now, allow these stories to settle gently within you. No need to understand. No need to hold on. Just rest, and let the teaching arrive like sleep itself, soft, effortless, and complete. The deeper our practice matures, the quieter it becomes. True progress does not announce itself. It does not shine brightly for others to see. Instead, it softens and slowly disappears into simplicity. Genuine wisdom naturally expresses itself as humility because it reveals something tender and unmistakable, that nothing exists on its own. When we see how deeply interconnected all life is, the idea of being better than another loses its meaning. There is no solid ground on which superiority can stand. Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki spoke of the don't know mind as the heart of beginner's mind. This is not confusion. It is not ignorance. It is the quiet wisdom that recognizes how little our ideas can truly contain the mystery of being alive. The tragedy of the clever monkey was not his skill. It was the belief that his cleverness made him special, separate from the whole, rather than a brief expression of the same universal intelligence that moves through all beings. The Buddha taught, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." Yen Pui discovered that by hiding his distinctions, by becoming unremarkable, he entered a deeper kind of influence, one that touched others not through display, but through presence. Now, gently turn inward. Consider your own path, without judgment, without effort. Are there moments when insight quietly becomes pride? When a meditation experience, a moment of clarity, or an act of compassion subtly turns into a way of feeling different, or ahead, or more awake than others? Each time we turn practice into identity, we repeat the monkey's dangerous dance. Tonight, as you rest here, there is nothing to prove. Can you practice the gentle art of being nobody special? Can you feel the ease that comes not from showing wisdom, but from resting inside the ordinary mystery of awareness itself? The Buddha said that those free from resentful thoughts naturally find peace. And the deepest peace arises when we even release the need to be peaceful. As this night's reflection begins to settle, notice something simple and reassuring. The calm you feel is not something you created. You did not manufacture it. You did not earn it. It was already here, woven quietly into the fabric of your being, waiting beneath the surface of doing and striving. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This wisdom reminds us that tranquility does not depend on perfect silence, or ideal conditions, or special moments. It emerges naturally when you allow yourself to be present, when you breathe gently, when you watch thoughts arise and pass without following them. Each story shared tonight was not meant to give you something new, but to help you remember what you already know. That contentment grows not from grasping, but from letting go. That happiness appears when we stop struggling against life and begin moving with it. That freedom is found not by changing the world, but by softening our relationship to whatever appears. Even if your mind wanders tomorrow, even if old habits return, these insights have already settled. Like seeds resting in rich soil, they will awaken whenever you meet yourself with patience and kindness. Now, as you prepare to drift into sleep, feel how your breathing has deepened on its own. Notice how your body has gently released its weight. Feel how your thoughts have slowed into a softer rhythm. These teachings are not hidden in ancient texts or distant mountains. They live here, in this pause, in this breath, in this quiet moment of awareness. Tonight you have remembered a truth that shines whenever we stop rushing and begin noticing. As sleep draws closer, carry with you not the stories themselves, but the understanding they have stirred. That peace is not a destination, but a way of traveling. Let this knowing be your compass, steady in calm waters, gentle in storms. And now, there is nothing left to do. Rest well, sleep deeply, and allow the night to hold you. And as the night grows quieter, there is an even deeper stillness waiting for you. Nothing new needs to be added now. Nothing needs to be understood. Let the mind loosen its grip, the way a hand slowly opens when it realizes it no longer has to hold on. Thoughts may still drift through, like distant clouds crossing a wide sky. You do not need to follow them. You do not need to push them away. Just notice, and let them pass. Each breath becomes softer than the last. Each exhale gently releases what the day has left behind. There is a natural intelligence within you that already knows how to rest. You trusted it once, long ago, before effort and striving were learned. Now you are simply remembering. In this moment, there is no monk, no student, no seeker. There is only awareness resting in itself. Zen teaches that awakening is not something we reach. It is something we stop covering. Like the moon revealed when clouds quietly move on. You may feel your body becoming heavier, sinking comfortably into the surface beneath you. Allow that heaviness. It is safe to let go. If the mind asks, "Am I doing this right?" smile gently inside and return to the breath. There is no right way to rest. Even sleep does not try to arrive. It comes when effort ends. The Buddha spoke of the middle way, the path of ease, where nothing is forced and nothing is denied. Right now, you are walking that path without taking a single step. Just being here is enough. Let awareness widen as if it has no edges. Sounds may appear, sensations may shift, but beneath it all there is a steady quiet that does not move. Rest there. This quiet has always been with you, in moments of joy, in moments of confusion, even in moments of pain. You do not need to protect it. You do not need to understand it. Simply allow it to cradle you now. As sleep draws closer, the boundary between waking and dreaming softens. Thoughts lose their weight. Images fade before they form. You are drifting not away from yourself, but deeper into what you are. Nothing to achieve. Nothing to become. Just this gentle unfolding into rest. And if awareness remains as the body sleeps, let it remain. If awareness fades, let it fade. Both are natural. Both are welcome. The night knows how to carry you. So trust and let go. Breathe out fully and allow sleep to arrive like a kind friend who has always known the way. And now, even the words begin to soften. They slow down, becoming quieter, like footsteps fading into deep snow. You do not need to listen closely anymore. You do not need to remember anything that has been said. The teaching has already settled where it needs to settle. Breath moves on its own. Each breath is like a small wave touching the shore and gently returning to the sea. Nothing is being carried forward. Nothing is being left behind. In this resting, there is no effort, no direction. Just a vast ease holding everything. Zen speaks of emptiness, not as absence, but as space, open, kind, unresisting. Feel that spaciousness now, around the body, within the body, beyond the body. There is room for everything, and nothing needs to stay. If a thought appears, let it float. If a feeling arises, let it soften. Like leaves drifting on water, they move and disappear without leaving a trace. You are not doing this. It is happening naturally. As sleep deepens, time loses its shape. Moments stretch and dissolve. The sense of before and after quietly fades. There is only this gentle presence, resting without a name. The Buddha taught that suffering ends when grasping ends. And right now, there is nothing to grasp. Even the idea of rest is no longer needed. Just sinking deeper and deeper, as if you are being held by the earth itself, steady and patient. As if the night sky has wrapped around you, wide and forgiving. You belong here. There is nowhere else to go. Let the body sleep when it is ready. Let the mind dream if it wishes. Let awareness remain or gently fade. Everything is in its natural place. And if silence grows long, that silence itself is the teaching. Rest in it. Sleep now. Even the sense of resting begins to dissolve. There is no one here trying to fall asleep. Sleep is already happening, slowly, naturally, without effort. Breath has become so gentle it barely feels like breathing anymore. It moves like a whisper, like the tide beneath the surface of the sea. In this depth, the body is only a soft outline, floating in warmth and heaviness. Edges blur. Weight spreads and disappears. There is no need to follow sensations. They go on their own. Zen speaks of returning to the place before thinking begins. Not a place in time, but a quiet recognition beneath all movement. Here, there is no question, no answer, no story, just being. Thoughts no longer form sentences. They appear as fragments, then dissolve before becoming anything at all. If awareness notices this, it notices gently, without interest, without grasping, like a mirror that reflects without holding. This is not concentration. This is release. Even the sense of I am aware softens, thins, and fades. What remains does not need a name. Stillness without effort. Silence without absence. The Buddha called this the unconditioned, not something to enter, but something revealed when conditions fall away. You are not moving toward it. You are not reaching it. You are simply no longer in the way. Let the night carry you the rest of the distance. There is nothing fragile here. Nothing that can be lost. If dreams arise, let them arise. If there is only darkness, let there be darkness. Both are peaceful. Time is no longer required. The mind does not need to know how long it has been resting. The body knows how to sleep. It has always known. Trust that knowing. Sink deeper, below thought, below memory, below effort. Into the quiet that was here before words, before identity, before seeking. This quiet does not sleep, and it does not wake. It simply is. And you are safe within it. Nothing more needs to be said.